इस आईनी प्रोसेस से इनकार नहीं किया। उन्होंने कहा कि एक नई सूरत हाल ने जन्म लिया है, एक नई सूरत हाल मेरे सामने आई है, और उस सूरत हाल को सामने रखते हुए मैं समझता हूं कि जहां एक बैरूनी साजिश की बात हो रही है तो इसका प्रोब होना जरूरी है, ये उन्होंने कहा। और जनाब वाला, ये भी मैं रिकॉर्ड पे लाना चाहता हूं कि नेशनल सिक्योरिटी कमेटी का फोरम एक आला तरीन फोरम है जिसमें हुकूमत के सीनियर तरीन वज़रा और अफवाज पाकिस्तान की नुमाइंदगी होती है। उस फोरम में वो मरासला जिसका जिक्र हो रहा है कौम में, और उस पर भी बात करना चाहूंगा मैं, उसकी बाज गश्त है, तूल अर्ज उसकी बाज गश्त है। जनाब वाला, जब नेशनल सिक्योरिटी कमेटी उसी मरासले को, उस कम्युनिकेशन को, उस केबल को, उस साइफर को देखती है तो वो इस नतीजे पे पहुंचती है कि मसला संगीन है, मसला हसास है, और दो ऑर्डर करती है। There are two decisions and I like to put those decisions in front of the House. One, they acknowledge there was political interference in the internal matters of Pakistan, and a demarche must be issued. दफ्तर खारजा को हुक्म दिया जाता है, इंस्ट्रक्ट किया जाता है कि डिमार्च करो, इस्लामाबाद में भी करो, वॉशिंगटन में भी करो, और जनाब वाला, नेशनल सिक्योरिटी कमेटी के फैसले के मुताबिक दफ्तर खारजा डिमार्च करता है, इस्लामाबाद में भी करता है और वॉशिंगटन में भी करता है। दूसरा फैसला सादर करता है नेशनल सिक्योरिटी कमेटी का इजलास कि पार्लियामान की जो नेशनल सिक्योरिटी कमेटी है फिलफौर उसको तलब किया जाए, उसको कन्वीन किया जाए, और ये सारा मामला मुंतखब नुमाइंदों को, ये सॉवरन हाउस है, ये अवाम जो है, ये पाकिस्तान की अवाम की तर्जुमानी कर रहा है, तो उनके उस फोरम के सामने रखा जाए कि वो बात की बारीकी तक जाएं और प्रोब करें और हकायक जानने की कोशिश करें। आप इजलास बुलाते हैं, ऑपोजिशन को दावत दी जाती है, ऑपोजिशन का फर्ज था। जनाब स्पीकर, दिस इज नॉट राइट, दिस इज नॉट फेयर, दिस इज नॉट फेयर।
ये वाइंड अप करें इसके बाद,
दिस इज नॉट फेयर।
ये वाइंड अप कर ले मैं सब, ये वाइंड अप कर लेना, ये वाइंड अप कर लेते हैं।
दिस इज नॉट फेयर। व्हाई इज ही नर्वस? आप नर्वस क्यों हो रहे हैं? घबरा रहे क्यों हैं?
मेरा ख्याल में
ना घबराएं, सुन ले बात।
ये वाइंड अप कर ले, इसके बाद आप कर लेंगे।
घबराहट किस चीज की है? उजरत किस चीज की है? परेशानी किस चीज की है?
जी मैं इस तरह करता हूँ, 12:30 बजे तक मैं इजलास एडजर्न करता हूँ। 12:30 बजे तक, 12:30 बजे जो है ना तक इजलास एडजर्न करता हूँ।
Is of course the big development that has taken place in the National Assembly in Pakistan, where the Speaker Anas Mallick, who's presiding over the proceedings in the House of the National Assembly, he has now said that the House will be adjourned till 12:30 p.m. local time in Islamabad. This is what now appears to be the strategy of the Imran Khan government. It has said that everything that will now take place in the National Assembly will be according to what the Supreme Court has said. But at the same time, it is said that it is important to probe into the allegations of this controversial cable, which reportedly wants, there's a foreign conspiracy which reportedly wants the Imran Khan government to be toppled, and that is what has inspired these members of the opposition to gang up and come up with this no trust vote against the Imran Khan government. This is a clear strategy that the government in Pakistan now seems to have embarked upon. That no trust vote, according to the order by the Supreme Court, must have taken place 10:30 a.m. Islamabad time. So we are well past that. We heard the opening remarks by Shahbaz Sharif, the leader of the United Opposition there, where he stated that the Speaker has a moment to clinch history. A Speaker, that is Asad Kaisar, he was referring to can now actually act independently and not take dictation from the government, as it happened in the case of the deputy speaker. This was something that was alleged by Shehbaz Sharif. Shehbaz Sharif also went on to state that it is important at this point of time to recognize the sentiments of the people of Pakistan, because the legislators who are sitting in the National Assembly reflect what the people of Pakistan want. And at this point of time, it was important not to repeat what had happened on the 3rd of April, and therefore Shehbaz Sharif had urged the presiding speaker, Asad Kaiser, to hold the vote of no confidence against the Imran Khan government. Now, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, the incumbent foreign minister in the Imran Khan government, of course, responded to that opening remarks. He said that Pakistan is a proud nation. It is proud of its independence. It's also proud of its independent foreign policy. These are the things that he said in his opening rebuttal remarks. And he also went on to state that there is a crisis that the country is facing, and the crisis, of course, is of a foreign conspiracy that seeks to topple the Imran Khan-led government, and therefore, till the time a probe, an independent probe, can establish what this conspiracy has been, he was indicating that it is difficult to have a vote of no confidence that would be devoid of some kind of external pushes and pulls. Some very interesting developments that are unfolding in the Pakistan National Assembly. This was something that was expected. Now, according to what a lot of people are saying, Imran Khan does not seem to have a majority in the National Assembly. There are defections where members, at least 15 members from within his own party, perhaps are not supporting their Prime Minister. The MQMP, the group of parties that was supporting the Imran Khan government, they are no longer with the incumbent government. The joint opposition, believe it or not, the parties of the PPP, that is Pakistan People's Party, and also the Muslim League Nawaz, they have joined hands. And they've put up a joint candidate, a joint unity candidate in the form of Shehbaz Sharif, who will be the next Prime Minister in case the opposition is able to bring down this present government. But it's going to be difficult to predict as to how all of this will play out. The House has been adjourned until 12:30 p.m. local time in Pakistan. That'll be 1 p.m. Indian time. And it'll be very interesting to see as to how all of these things, of course, play out. But the strategy is very clear. The Imran Khan government is looking for a probe. What form will this probe be? Will it be a joint parliamentary standing committee that will be probing this particular controversial cable? We do not know. What sort of a probe does the Pakistani government want? That will determine in terms of how things will, of course, proceed. How long will that probe last? Can it happen in a day? Can it happen in a week? Will it take a month? Will it take more than a month? These are some of the things that we will have to now look at. But the strategy of the Imran Khan government is very clear. It is no longer looking to try and force an early election, or at least that is what the indication looks like to be. This is a strategy to try and whip up more support for itself, to go to the people of Pakistan with a narrative that there is an attempt led by the Americans through a foreign-funded conspiracy that is trying to pull down the government of Imran Khan. Can Imran Khan see through this innings? This is going to be a long test match. It is not going to end in a day or two. It is not going to end in a session. This is a test match where the government will have to bat and defend itself session after session. It's difficult to see as to what type of parliamentary work could in fact take place. Parliamentary legislative work can take place so long as the National Assembly is caught up in this very controversial moment. The government is insisting on a probe. The government is now saying that there cannot be a vote of no confidence that would be fair, that would be independent of foreign interference till the time that controversial foreign cable indicating that the Americans want to pull down the Imran Khan government is investigated into. Even if an investigation were to happen, what would that mean? How will this impact the future, the political future of Imran Khan? And what does it mean for the Pakistan-America relationship? These are, of course, questions that we will get an answer to over the course of the next few days and weeks and months. But remember, the Pakistani army, which is never far away from Pakistani politics, is maintaining a very studied silence on all the political turmoil that is presently unfolding in the National Assembly. What will the Supreme Court have to say? The Supreme Court order was very clear. Shehbaz Sharif read it out just in his opening remarks, where he said that the Speaker is duty-bound to conduct a vote of no confidence And that has to be done at 10:30 a.m. local time in Islamabad. We are well past that deadline. It is 40 minutes past that deadline, and the House has now been adjourned until 12:30 p.m. local time in Pakistan. All right, now to give us more insights in terms of how all of these developments are likely to play out and what, of course, this means for the government and the National Assembly in Pakistan, we joined in by Dr. Qamar Cheema, who is a strategic and a political analyst, who is joining us from Islamabad. Mr. Cheema, thank you very much indeed for taking time out and for speaking to us here on WION. And let me begin by asking you this. From what transpired in the National Assembly in Pakistan, it appears that Imran Khan is getting ready to bat in an innings in a test match that is going to go on for a very long time. According to what Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said, it appears that the government is now pretty much intent on having a probe into that controversial cable before it has a vote of no confidence in the National Assembly. What is your reading on this?
Well, I think this is a very important day for Pakistan. The reason behind is that the Supreme Court of Pakistan has basically forced the government of Pakistan and the Pakistani parliamentarians to obey the constitution of the country. And remember, it was the ruling party, PTI, of Prime Minister Imran Khan, who basically floated all the canons of the constitution, and constitution was undermined. And they tried to subvert the constitution. They tried to subvert the democracy, for which they came here because they thought that there is a foreign conspiracy, and there was no proof of that. Neither there was an inquiry, neither it was determined by any institution, nor it was established from any forum. So they just did it because they believed that that is the best way not to be ousted by vote of the no confidence. Remember, Prime Minister Imran Khan will be the first Prime Minister in the history of the country who will be voted out through no confidence motion. So he wanted to avoid that embarrassment maybe, and he didn't want to give a resignation because he believes that if he will give a resignation, that will show his weakness. And he didn't want to be ousted through the vote of no confidence because he believed that he will be labeled as the first Prime Minister. And at the same time, he cannot dissolve the assemblies because once the no confidence motion is there, he can't dissolve the assemblies. The most important thing right at this moment is that Pakistan's relations with the USA, how are they going to be in the future? Because Imran Khan has tried to dent the Pakistan-US relations. And remember, the Imran Khan has been asked, and he has been asked that there is a difference between the government and the state. So Imran Khan, while saving his government, is trying to hit the national interest and trying to hit the state. So this is something which will be very important for the next government, which will have to mend the ties and which will have to set the course right.
You know, Dr. Cheema, I'll talk about how all of this will impact the Pakistan-US equation in a bit. But I want you to dwell a little bit about the strategy that appears to become now a little bit more clear. Shah Mahmood Qureshi, in his rebuttal to that opening statement by Shehbaz Sharif, said that everything that the government is now doing in the National Assembly is according to the orders of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court wanted the vote of no confidence to take place, but it also had stressed upon that controversial foreign cable to be investigated. And here, the government is insisting that that foreign cable must be investigated first, the conspiracy unearthed and decoded, and then the vote of confidence will have some meaning. What is your reading on this?
Well, I think first of all, in just these few hours, that foreign cable that cannot be investigated, there is no forum, nor it has been decided. Although Prime Minister Imran Khan just tried to make a forum just yesterday through his cabinet order, and he asked the former Lieutenant General Tariq for making the head of that forum to establish the conspiracy against him. The former Lieutenant General refused to be part of that forum. So I think Imran Khan is trying to just play to the gallery, and by playing to the gallery means playing to the people. So he believes that he has lost the numbers. The only best thing he can do is to convince the people that there is a foreign conspiracy. So the foreign conspiracy will make people forget what was the economic miseries, what was the issue of the bad governance, how the poor performance of the Imran Khan's government created problems for the Pakistani state and for the Pakistani people. So at the same time, so the people will forget what are the miseries, and people will just look into these conspiracy theories.
Absolutely, but are you looking at the strategy that Imran Khan seems to have embarked upon? He's padded up for a long innings. He's not buckling under pressure because now the tactic is to delay. The procedure of a probe is not set yet. It's difficult because the probe will not happen in a day. It will not happen in a week. It may not happen in a month. And until that probe is done and completed, according to what Shah Mahmood Qureshi was saying, a vote of no confidence may have no meaning.
Well, they may say anything, but the important thing is that the vote of the no confidence is to be today. So what Imran Khan is saying that this is an imported government. So he's just labeling the new government as an imported government because this is coming from the wish of the U.S. government or the U.S. authorities. But at the same time, Imran Khan was known as a selected government. So I think this is just to win the brownie points from the public.
Absolutely indeed. Dr. Chima, do stay on with us. Meanwhile, I'm told that my colleague Anas Mallick is joining us live from the National Assembly in Islamabad. Anas, some pretty interesting and fascinating developments there. We seem to now know what strategy the Imran Khan government is embarking upon. It is batting for time. It is looking increasingly clear that the government wants to probe that controversial foreign cable before it conducts a vote of no confidence against the government in the National Assembly.
Well, that's a strategy that they are trying to opt for, to delay and seek more and more time so that a probe can be done. But there are two factors that have to be kept in mind. One, that the government-nominated person for the Commission, General Tariq Khan, he has, as per media reports, reportedly excused from taking the charge as the Commission head. That being said, the government at this point of time is putting across their point of view in the House, in the session, and then after that, we are expecting the Foreign Secretary to brief as well. Now, as I talk to you, the opposition is still inside the House, despite the fact that the session has been adjourned until 12:30. Some very interesting scenes as the question hour opened. Shehbaz Sharif took the dais. He reminded the Speaker of his duties and he read out the Supreme Court verdict as well. After which the Speaker assured that the Supreme Court ruling will be followed in letter and spirit. And then Shah Mahmood Qureshi taking the floor, saying that they would want to the opposition is all in its right to put up a no confidence motion and to defend that it's their responsibility and that they will do so in all of the constitutional, political and democratic ways. That was the key highlight. But towards the end, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, while he was speaking, the opposition leader got up. He tried to speak at one point of order on the point of foreign conspiracy. That's when we saw some hooting being done by the opposition and government benches both. And in order to avoid any ruckus, the Speaker has adjourned the session for about an hour and a half. And it will now resume at 12:30 p.m. Pakistan time. Saleh?
Absolutely indeed. Now, Anas, this is a pretty clear strategy that seems to now be emerging. It's difficult to say as to how all of this will, of course, play out. But the government is padding itself up for a 5-day test match or even longer because it is insisting on a probe and we do not know what type of a probe will be conducted. How is the opposition reacting to this delay tactic by the government? Have you had a chance to speak with them? Because the vote should have taken place 10:30 a.m. Islamabad time, but that has not happened.
Just a correction, the session for the vote of no confidence should have taken place at 10:30 a.m. And that's something that has been ensured by the government. The vote specifically can take place at any given time today. That's what the Supreme Court ruling said to basically restore the agenda, that of the 3rd of April. The voting is on agenda item number 4 right now. The agenda item number 3 is ongoing. So might as well see probably later today voting happening. That's what the opposition say, and they're hopeful for. They say that they will ensure that voting continues and voting happens at all costs at any given time, and that is what their priority is. And that is the reason they have not gone out to their chambers to this respected rooms, but rather they're sitting back in the hall, waiting for the assembly to convene again at 12:30 in about an hour and a half from now. They're seated inside the hall itself, Saleh.
At this point of time, is it possible to make out, as to how many members has the joint opposition got to support it in case the vote of no confidence were to take place? Because the last time round, on the 3rd of April, the opposition made it abundantly clear. They paraded 172 lawmakers. They have not done that this morning. How many people are supporting the opposition?
Well, visibly, the number of the PTI lawmakers are lesser, and those from the opposition are more, visibly. There haven't been a count as yet, but the opposition claims, and going by the numbers on the books, they got at least 176 members, far more than the magic number that is required of 172. That's what the opposition says, and that's what we see visibly as well. As I said, in the assembly, I was there, I was present inside the session, and visibly, as I said, on the opposition benches had lesser numbers, had more numbers, and the government benches, or treasury benches, had lesser number. As in when and if the voting happens, that is what is going to be the key. The onus, remember, lies on the opposition right now to prove that they have 172, the magic number, to make this no confidence motion a success.
Right.
Saleh.
Absolutely indeed. Anas, thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us all those updates from the National Assembly. They will of course come back to you as more details emerge. I'm told Dr. Qamar Cheema is still with us. Now, Dr. Cheema, this appears to be a clear strategy of the government. They want to delay, but how long can they realistically delay?
Well, obviously they can't delay because there are clear instructions from the Supreme Court that they have to go for a voting today. So if there is a voting today, then obviously there is no way that he can stay in power. And remember, his people, he doesn't have sufficient numbers, and his member National Assembly, they are not showing any interest even to be in the National Assembly, and the opposition, the coalition partners of the opposition, and the joint opposition parties, they are in the National Assembly to vote him out. So this is a very important day and very significant day in Pakistan's democratic history. Yes, please.
Absolutely. And also, do you think the government would, at this point of time, want to, go approach the Supreme Court stating that a probe into this controversial foreign cable at this point of time should take precedence over the no confidence vote? Is that something that the government would want to do?
Well, obviously, when the Imran Khan will be in opposition, that is the one single point he will keep using for his next national campaign, for the election campaign as well. And that is the only point he believes he can do this. So, raising populist sloganeering, using religion, using foreign conspiracies, and proving that I am the nationalist leaders and others are the traitors. These are the certain points which Imran Khan will use for his next government, for the next elections.
Absolutely, indeed. And also my last question to you before we let you go, Dr. Cheema, how popular do you think Imran Khan is, especially with this conspiracy theory that he is now floating about? He's been insisting that his government is under threat due to a foreign conspiracy. Are the people of Pakistan buying this assertion by their Prime Minister?
Yes, a large section of the society really buy this conspiracy theory. And Imran Khan is capable enough, and he's a ferocious campaigner. He understands how to campaign and win the hearts and the minds of the people. And since the large section of the society, normally they just cannot process the information and they don't have background knowledge, and they rely on the messaging that comes from their leadership. And Imran Khan has a backing of the right-wing conservative religious voter, and as well as the moderate liberal voters who support him because he's not corrupt. So a likely possibility that a large section of the society will buy his argument that the foreign conspiracy was hatched against his government for ousting him.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Qamar Cheema, for joining us from Islamabad and getting us all those insights there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.